Government details model for civil servant pay rises. Temperatures to remain in the 30s ahead of the weekend. And Hong Kong astronaut joins handover ceremony at the China space station. Good evening. Welcome to TVB News. The government releases the Pay Trend Survey, which details the calculation of a net pay trend indicator that offers pay rise suggestions ranging from 1.17% to 4.12% for civil servants at various ranks. Mimosa Ngai reports.
The government says the three salary bands are calculated after looking at the pay trend of about 155,000 employees from 104 companies, after deducting the civil service payroll cost of increments for each salary band from their respective gross pay trend indicators. The suggested pay rise for seniors, middle-ranking and junior civil servants is 4.12%, 2.64% and 1.17% respectively. Secretary for Civil Service Ingrid Yeung says the government will consider a range of factors before determining the annual civil service pay adjustment, including Hong Kong's economy, changes in the cost of living and civil service morale. Asked if the government will take into account the social sentiment in deciding civil servants' salaries, the Bureau says that's a key aspect.
I think public reaction, public acceptance of the proposed policy decision is a factor that the Executive Council will take into consideration in making every decision.
Records show the final pay rise of civil servants do not always match the suggested bands. In the fiscal year of 2023-24, the government adjusted the junior pay rise from 4.5% to 4.65% to align with the middle-ranking officers. Mums 9, TVB News.
Starting in October, the government will implement a civil servant performance evaluation and optimization system. Only civil servants with satisfactory performance will receive pay rises, and about 10% of employees may not receive any at all. Secretary for Civil Service Ingrid Yeung says the first phase of the optimized civil servant performance evaluation system will be implemented from October the 1st, which will use curve grading. The performance of civil servants at all levels will be evaluated in 6 grades. Yeung says only civil servants with satisfactory work performance will receive pay increase points, but Yeung adds in a small number of professional positions, it is possible that all staff performed well. The very hot weather warning is still in force as temperatures in multiple districts soar to 35 degrees Celsius. The Senior Citizen Home Safety Association reminds the elderly to switch on fans and air conditioning at night to prevent heat stroke. Temperatures will remain high, hovering around 35 degrees tomorrow. Samantha Lee has more.
Hong Kong remains extremely hot as an upper air anticyclone is bringing a heat wave to the city. As the mercury climbed at noon, joggers were seen struggling under the scorching sun at the Kwun Tong Promenade. Protecting your skin from getting burned is the priority. Ice cream is a good idea too. Heating the swimming pool is another popular escape. Temperatures hit 35 degrees Celsius or above across multiple areas this afternoon. Tai Po and Yuen Long reached 36 degrees, while Sun Shui topped 37 degrees. Hong Kong has recorded 5 consecutive hot nights where minimum temperatures are at least 28 degrees. The Senior Citizen Home Safety Association reports their emergency hotline handled 1,912 calls for help on Tuesday, an 8% spike compared to normal days.
Wang
Honghong, CEO of the association, says many elderly residents try to save money on air conditioning and fans out of fear of expensive electricity bills. She urges seniors not to switch everything off at night, as nighttime heat may trigger sudden health complications. The observatory says temperatures will hover around 35 degrees Friday, with the new territories a couple of degrees higher. However, scattered showers and thunderstorms will come later in the day, persisting through the weekend. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
A solar power plant in the Chongqing Southeast New Territories landfill begins operation and expected to generate approximately 1.2 million units of electricity annually. The power facility, with approximately 1,850 solar panels, covered 14 million square feet. Completed in the fourth quarter of last year, it is expected to generate approximately 1.2 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually, equivalent to the electricity consumption of 360 households, offsetting 530,000 kilograms of carbon emissions. Chief Executive John Lee, in a video address, expresses his hope that the project will provide Hong Kong with more experience in exploring renewable energy and open up new paths for sustainable urban development. A former chair professor at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology is sentenced to 20 weeks in prison for accepting a $40,000 bribe from a friend to help a student secure admission into a master's degree program. Samantha Lee was in court today.
The 63-year-old defendant Liu Hongbin was taken to the Kwun Tong Magistrates Court by a prison van this morning. He previously pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy for a public servant to accept an advantage and 2 counts of offering an advantage to a public servant. At the time of the offense, Liu was a chair professor in the Department of Ocean Science at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. He admitted to accepting a bribe of $40,000 from a friend between March and May last year to assist a student majoring in automotive engineering who did not meet the academic requirements to enroll in the Master of Science in Environmental Health and Safety program. He also offered red packets containing $5,000 and $1,000 respectively to a lecturer and a staff member responsible for admission matters, saying they were a token of appreciation of their hard work. The 2 staff members refused to accept the envelopes and reported the matter to the university. Liu and his insurance agent friend were arrested by the Independent Commission Against Corruption in June last year. In mitigation, Liu said he was born in the mainland but have lived in Hong Kong for the past 20 years. He said he served on government committees and received positive comments from colleagues. Hoping the court would hand down a suspended sentence, he claimed to suffer from depression because of the case and expressed remorse. Acting Principal Magistrate Cheng Ming-sen notes Liu has been in the city for many years and should understand what he did was illegal. Although the program has no quota limit, all applicants should be treated fairly. Taking into account the defendant's background, his academic contributions, and his cooperation with the ICAC, Liu is sentenced to 20 weeks in prison. As for the other defendant, Lam Pui Ling, her case will be handled on June 24th.
The judge stated that corruption and bribery are serious offenses in Hong Kong that cannot be tolerated. Since no truly exceptional circumstances exist in this case, imprisonment is considered the appropriate sentence. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
China's Shenzhou 21 and Shenzhou 23 astronaut crews held a handover ceremony in the Chinese space station. The Shenzhou 21 crew, along with the Shenzhou 23 crew, including Hong Kong astronaut Lai Ka-ying, performed a handover ceremony for the transfer of the key to the Chinese space station. The Shenzhou 21 crew has completed all planned tasks. The 3 astronauts will take the Shenzhou 22 spacecraft and return to the Dongfeng landing site in North China in the next few days. Comprehensive drills at the site have been completed. The 3 astronauts, who have stayed in space for nearly 7 months, longer than usual, will receive more extensive medical support upon their return. And still ahead, the US and Iran continue to exchange fire as peace talks still underway. The WHO cautions Ebola is spreading faster than containment efforts in Congo. Welcome back. US forces carries out new defensive strikes on an Iran military facility after downing Iranian attack drones, according to US officials. The strikes come after US President Donald Trump asserts Iran is negotiating on fumes and insists the US November midterm elections won't make him rush into a deal to end the nearly 3-month-old conflict that spurred unease across the global economy. Daniel Rao tells us more.
US forces carried out new defensive strikes on Wednesday on an Iranian military facility after downing Iranian attack drones, according to US officials. The officials, who are not authorized to comment publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity, says US Central Command forces shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones that posed a threat around the Strait of Hormuz. US forces also struck an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas that was about to launch a 5th drone, according to the officials. The strikes came after US President Donald Trump asserted Iran is negotiating on fumes and insisted the US's November midterm elections won't make him rush into a deal to end the nearly 3-month-old conflict that spurred unease across the global economy. Speaking at the start of a cabinet meeting, Trump expresses confidence a deal is near. The US president is looking for a settlement that will reopen the Strait of Hormuz and provide him with a credible argument that Iran's nuclear capability has been diminished enough to declare victory, winding down a conflict that's been politically unpopular for Republicans. Still, he warns any deal has got to be perfect.
I can say that we can make a good deal right now, but maybe not a great deal, and if it's not a great deal, we're not making it. Because we can make a great deal with this guy right here, and but it's it's a lot nastier. Probably wouldn't go as quickly. We wouldn't be talking about it as quickly, but it would be foolproof. But I think we're doing very well, Steve. I think we're doing pretty well in terms of the negotiation, but we'll see.
Iran's media reported Wednesday, citing Ali Bagheri Khani, Deputy Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, that Tehran and the US have not reached an agreement on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Bagheri says Iran and Oman are currently negotiating a new mechanism governing the ship transit through the strategic waterway, while indirect contacts between Iran and the US are continuing. He also stresses Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium is not on the agenda of the ongoing negotiations. The Trump administration has placed additional sanctions on Iran as part of a sprawling economic pressure campaign during the war, this time targeting the country's newly created agency that is trying to control shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
The World Health Organization cautions the current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is raging faster than responders can manage, especially in the eastern Ituri province, and urges conflicting parties to agree to a ceasefire. The WHO Director General steps up his call on all warring parties in DRC, including the Allied Democratic Forces, the Cooperative for the Development of Congo militias, as well as a Rwanda-backed M23 armed group, to agree to an immediate ceasefire to halt Ebola spread. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus describes the situation as a catastrophic collision of disease and conflict, as the ongoing clashes are driving mass displacement and pushing exposed contacts into crowded camps. A rare strain of Ebola is now affecting 13 health zones in the African nation. Since May the 18th, the WHO has recorded 390 new suspected cases, including 92 deaths across Ituri, North Kivu and South Kivu provinces.
With the Democratic Republic.
Uganda's health ministry says it is temporarily closing the border with Congo with immediate effect. Authorized Ebola response teams, humanitarian operations, food and cargo transportation and security are exempt from the order, but will still go through strict screening and monitoring across the border. According to the Washington Post, the Trump administration plans to send Americans exposed to Ebola to a new quarantine facility in central Kenya within the week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio insists no Ebola patients will be allowed to enter.
The number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been monitoring the outbreaks and will limit travel from affected regions as millions of international visitors will stream into American cities during the FIFA World Cup. A medical expert breaks down the risks facing the public and stresses the importance of vaccination.
The best way for people in the United States to protect themselves when there are a lot of people coming into the country for tourism or the World Cup is to be up to date on all of your vaccines.
She shares some of the steps sports fans should take to stay protected. Go to outdoor venues, wash hands, and know their personal risk factors.
If I were an immune-compromised person, I might stick to outdoor venues, places where there's very good circulation and or masking. I think indoor venues, smaller venues might be an option for some people. That way they know everybody that's there. So, really, whenever you're in a group setting, regardless of the weather, it's always a good idea to wash your hands, just take those extra precautions, stay home if you're feeling unwell, the usual things that we ask.
Russia threatens to rip up a natural gas deal with Armenia should it continue to pursue membership of the European Union. The warning comes ahead of a crucial vote in Armenia's parliamentary election. An official letter was reportedly sent to the Armenian side Wednesday, which states if its process of accession to the EU continues, Moscow will suspend or unilaterally terminate a cooperation agreement allowing Yerevan to buy Russian cheap oil, gas and rough diamonds free of export duties and on vastly preferential terms. Armenia, a former Soviet republic, hosts Russian military bases and is heavily reliant on Russian energy. But their relations soured in recent years amid the conflict with Azerbaijan, as Yerevan accuses Moscow of failing to provide the security support that it expected. The country's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has since accelerated rapprochement with the West and suspended participation in the Russian-led regional defense bloc. Opinion polls are giving Pashinyan, who is endorsed by US President Donald Trump, a comfortable lead over pro-Russian rivals in the upcoming election on June the 7th. In his latest attempt to beautify the capital, US President Donald Trump is set to begin construction on a fountain commemorating World War II. This as renovations are still underway at the White House ballroom and as an ultimate fighting arena being put up. Trump says the 2,400-foot World War II memorial fountain located between the Lincoln Memorial and Washington Monument will be completed by July the 4th. Meanwhile, crews are erecting a 6-foot wire mesh fence shaped into an octagon on the White House lawn. US fighters will use a combination of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling and other martial arts in a June 14th mixed martial arts show timed for Trump's 80th birthday and as part of the nation's 250th anniversary. The fight is set to draw some 85,000 spectators to the White House and nearby parks. As Europe continues to face scorching weather, scientific reports suggest global temperature will continue to rise over the next 5 years. This as residents and travelers across the continent continue to find creative ways to combat the heat. Climate scientists warn action must be taken against global warming, citing there is a 91% chance the next 5 years will be warmer than the previous 5. The World Meteorological Organization report says things are looking especially hot in the Northern Hemisphere.
So the next 5 years, we're expecting temperatures to be above average, basically everywhere in the world. So the science is very clear. The climate is warming and the global average temperatures are continuing to rise. And it's very clear that we need to take urgent action to reduce this as much as possible.
The new United Nations climate projections forecast a high likelihood of more speeded up warming through 2030, with Earth smashing its record for the hottest year and regularly surging past the international climate limit set as safe in 2015. At the Eiffel Tower in Paris, measures to help visitors and staff cope with the heat kicked in early with misting systems on the forecourt and in waiting areas already in place. While air conditioning in elevator cabins have been turned on as temperatures reach as high as 30 degrees Celsius. Rotations for employees exposed to prolonged sun and heat were cut from 60 minutes to 30 minutes with fresh drinks and cooled break rooms readily available. Officials say they hope not to repeat measures taken last July to close the top of the Eiffel Tower due to the extreme heat. Tourists are coping with plenty of water and for some, an ice-cold glass of bubbly.
Champagne's a really good way to deal with the heat, but also we're from Los Angeles, so we're used to the hot weather.
The French government says there have been reports of at least 7 deaths potentially linked to the heat, including 5 drownings and 2 deaths during sports competitions. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.